There are extra copies out in the hall if anyone needs one. We will follow the agenda as outlined, and we will have our invocation and pledge of allegiance by Mr. Roy McClurkin. May we all stand?
Bow your heads, please. Gracious Fathers, again, we come before you with bowed head and almost heart, just thanking you, dear God, for such a wonderful day. Thank you, dear God, that you bless us each and every day, and thank you, dear God, for your many, many sacrifices you allow us to have, dear God. Dear God, continue to bless this commission, dear God. Continue to bless us with the work that we're doing, dear God, that we might serve the peoples of this great county, dear God. Dear God, we ask you that you take care of us and watch over us, dear God, each and every one of us. Bless the members of the audience, dear God. Dear God, bless all the citizens of this great county, dear God. Dear God, it's with you and only you that we can get things done, dear God. It is in your name and your name only, dear God, that we ask it all. Amen.
Amen. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. There's some seats up front if y'all want to sit. Okay.
I want to run out.
All right, we're down to the adoption of our minutes from February the 9th. And we have all had the opportunity to read over the minutes. Any questions or concerns? Do I have a motion for adoption?
Second.
All right, we're down to number 3, funding update by Mr. Theo DeBose. And Commission, if you have any questions after Mr. DeBose presents or during his presentation, please stop and ask. Thank you, Mr. DeBose.
Can y'all hear me? Is this on this time?
I can hear it.
We're good?
I can hear it. Can
thank
y'all hear in the back? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At your last meeting, I suggested a target of $37 million in projects, and that would be funded both likely from sales taxes, either directly or through bonds, and we've always recommended bonds, and I'll tell you why in a minute, and also through carryover from the last capital project sales tax. We've got a little bit more work with the county's financial advisor and also with the treasurer's office, and to tie up the loose ends, because any overfunding for 2016 CPST projects needs to be accomplished first, and we're about to wrap that up. But given the numbers I've seen, I think $37 million is pretty good. What I had envisioned for tonight, Madam Chair, was to go ahead and have a draft ballot that could be approved at your next meeting, and we would put that in a format for y'all to review before that next meeting, and it would list the projects. And I'll just tell you, staff and I have worked on that a little bit already, and just one example, it would say for a particular town, improvements to recreation facilities. We don't want a 4-page ballot with every park in every town, or so that's what we're looking at. I had a question about priority. The ultimate decider of the priority is county council. What this county has done for 25 years is this commission has created a ballot, and something has to come first and something has to come second, and that has been the prioritization of the projects. The council has the right to ask you to change that, but it would have to come back to you. They can change the ballot. One of the confusing things about the law is this body has to set the ballot, and the average citizen is going to look at that ballot and say, the one at the top must be the most important, and the next one more so. And that's the way this county is operated. So while the council can change the priority when they go to actually fund these, if the referendum is successful, they can't change the ballot without your permission. So it creates a bit of a disconnect, and I don't think that's by design in the law. I think that's just the way the law is. That you have the order of projects on the ballot, and if council wants to change that, first of all, they have to adopt an ordinance to do that, and if they want to change the order that they appear on the ballot, they would have to get your consent. And I've never had a single council member want to do that in my experience here. Not to say that they couldn't, but that's just the way that the law is. It's not a perfect statute. So again, I've, in talking with staff, a sort of a two-phase process is tonight figuring out what order that would be in your mind to put them on the ballot 1 through 12 or whatever it is. Then we would have a, I think, final ballot for y'all and take care of any, loose ends that might pop up this week at your next meeting.
Okay.
I'm glad to answer any questions right now or at any other time.
Can you also give us some clarity again on bonded versus non-bonded?
I will. The model we've worked with is bonded. Mm-hmm. Bonding allows the council, the county, to start as many of these projects as possible all at the same time. Because the money is borrowed, the best way to do it is borrow it all at once if all of your projects are ready to go. And then the money is in effect set aside in not physical accounts, but accounting accounts. And each project can tap its ballot amount. The other way to do this is through what's called pay-as-you-go. And the project with the first priority would be ready to go when the county had collected enough sales tax to pay for it. And then the next project would sit and wait until the county had collected enough sales tax to do that one, and so on. The county council is free to do that, and they could do that just because the county council has to actually issue the bond. So they could do that, but the risk today in doing that is inflation. And because of the way the act is written, each project gets enough money that matches what's on the ballot. Y'all have seen these numbers. And it gets no more till all the other projects have gotten what they're entitled to on the ballot. So each project that's a cost overrun, which is a pretty good chance if you were to push these projects out, the chances increase more and more unless we have an economic reversal. They don't even get started until we get to the end of the chain, and then we start filling up the cost overrun jar for each one. So it could be 5 years before a project in the middle of the ballot actually can be contracted for, unless the sponsor of that project, if you will, goes ahead and supplies the rest of the money itself. The only projects I know that are done in the state are pay-as-you-go are York County's roads, because it's just highways, and it doesn't involve delivering pretty targeted services to communities around the county. So that's the difference. And we ran some numbers at 3.5%, inflation equals 29%. After 5.5 years. So costs can get very far away from you under that scenario. So it ends up, if inflation cools down, it means there's more money at the end of the project for the next round of capital projects. The money, it's not like a health savings account or something where if you don't spend it, it goes away. It's just available for the next round of projects.
How quick can a bonded project be started?
Well, what we have done in the past, and I'm not batting 1,000 here, but everybody's going to know on November 9th whether this is a go. And the bonds have been issued around May 1st in the past. But I think it's up to the administration at that point. I mean, these projects have been vetted, some, and it's telling people start designing. because your project's going to get funded, and let's get them going. Check against inflation one more time, all that. So the bonds theoretically could get issued in January, but there's no reason to do that.
Prior to the approval by the
Not-
citizens?
Oh, no. The approval is in, what, 6 months from yesterday? I believe I got that right. And then there's a short challenge period on any election in South Carolina for bonds. So they could be issued in January, but what we've seen in the past is you issuing them in May, because you have given each municipality and the county and the Water and Sewer Authority, if all of those projects are on the ballot, 6 months to get their project going. And that's just a process of working with each of the parties in concern after the referendum. It's nothing we can do much about that until the referendum passes, but after that, it's a give and take to make sure those projects are getting done. We don't want to issue bonds and have no project that can go because of inflation problems, you know. And just to finish my comments, I think, is you do need to understand that whenever you do that, the county, a year from now, we're talking about it, the earliest to issue bonds is going to look at where costs are. They're going to look at where interest rates are, because that can have an impact on how much you can do. And say, okay, we can do the first whatever projects. In 2016, we did every one, all of them, all at once. In 2010, there were 3 at the end that took 5 years to get to, just because of interest rates and costs. So by putting it on a ballot, today, a model that we've worked on shows you could do them all, but that doesn't mean a year from now you will be able to. There are a lot of variables that can change. Did I answer your question, sir?
Somewhat.
Well,
It just seems to me that, well, I'll get into that a little later. To say that it's a bonded project, that's after it's been approved by the people in the county of Newberry, correct?
all of them, yes.
Okay, all of it. But in reference to it, after the approval, it would be 6 months. Sometimes, if you went along on a standalone deal that we're gonna do it based on the money received, I guess I question what's the benefit of that versus the other direction? What's the benefit of going standalone?
There's some savings on interest cost on bonds. That's basically,
Savings how?
well, if you do a bond issue, some of this tax money would go to capital project, sales tax money would go to pay interest on that bond issue. So it's really a question of paying some interest on the bond issue versus the risk of inflation. And the risk of inflation is greater for projects further down the priority list, just over time.
Well, nobody would have believed the rate of inflation a year and a half, 2 years ago, as it is right now.
Oh, that's right. When you model a program like this, when inflation is 1%, you look like a genius, because that variable is not in the mix, but it is in the mix today. You know,
It's a paradox, there's no question about it.
it is. And if we get pushed into a recession, we're not going to be talking about inflation probably. Although in the early 80s, I'm not an economist, but we had stagflation where prices stayed high and demand stayed low. So
It wasn't that long ago, you had 18% interest.
I remember that.
And, well, you should very well remember.
I do.
And in reference to the thing, I mean, with the price of gasoline and some of the other stuff, inflation's a real concern, should be to everybody in the room and in this nation.
It is. I agree. Well, thank you.
Any other questions?
Right there.
Okay. Okay. All right, we're down to number 4, deliberation on projects to include on November ballot and prioritization of the projects. All right, all of us should have our list from last time. Any questions or concern? I think there is a correction with Whitmire Gym, and you should have that in your handouts. It should look like this. It's a spreadsheet. Whereas we had on ours last time, 800, there's a new cost that has come in at 912,508. So, let's talk about the new cost. Questions? So I think what we're looking at is the 800,000 versus the 912,508. Commission? Y'all have,
Just for clarification.
Okay.
So everyone knows, when the 800,000 was given, it was prior to all of the inflation taking place. So this number has the inflation factor.
okay.
So are we deliberating on whether or not we're gonna give the 912?
Versus the 8. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm fine with considering giving it and looking around if there's anything else we want to cut. I think that the excess over a exact 37 million is like 159,638. So we could potentially see if there's anything else. You know, someone else's number that we want to reduce, not necessarily a cut of something in its entirety, but.
Okay. So before we look at cutting something, is everyone in agreement with the 912,508? Because that does include inflation, where we had the original 800,000. So is everybody okay with the 912,508? And then we can look at some other concerns. Mr. Reed, you okay with the 912,508?
Well, is he present?
Is he?
You know, he told us that the court was in great shape, and here we got it again at $50,000. And the thing that he was looking for was a roof replacement and to have it rewired. And, you know, you've got a lot of additives in here, and I don't have a problem with an additional $112,000, but I've got a problem that we've got the $50,000 for a court replacement when he said it was adequate. Is he here?
No, sir, he has a meeting for the town tonight. It's actually to restore the floor, but it wasn't a replacement for the floor.
Yeah, you just say that.
That's right, because we'd be more. Okay. Renee, how do you?
I don't recall anything about replacement of the bleachers.
No, it wasn't.
It's 24.
If we would go back to the first proposal, he gave it to us.
Yeah, we gotta find it.
Yeah, it would be on tab number 10.
Tab 10?
Yes.
Get this ahead of time. Okay, that's what
Okay, go.
I'm looking at.
Tab 10.
Okay. These are the things.
That explains it.
But he did have a cost on,
I do have a note written down from taking notes on his project that he did mention replace the bleachers.
did.
okay, is this the one you're talking about, Mr. Works? Because this
Yeah.
one's very vague. That one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when we first came out, looking at the 1.3 million.
Uh-huh.
And I was on Zoom that night, and he was saying, Mayor was saying that 800,000 would have been sufficient, and that's what we went on. But some things have been brought up, but then
Right.
Ms. Karen said that this was based on the inflations for the $800,000. So,
Yeah, it seemed like 800,000 was not like he just threw it out there with any thought, but like he didn't like estimate it out. It sounded like, from my understanding. So,
It was an estimate, just like the one you have, just a different set of numbers without the inflation factor. It was 779,000.
Well. What thing is-
I don't think I ever saw anything this detailed though from him.
No, he
Now,
didn't.
this-
He didn't.
this
He
is-
didn't.
this is the
We
first
got
one.
this tonight. Right,
Just
right.
make sure.
Yeah, this is the first, uh-huh.
As he stated to you before, Alliance did not have the detail in the $1.3 million. Kyle has not visited the site. The one that's spread out for you, Urban West did for him when he first started back before November. And after Alliance did the estimate, it was discussed not to give Urban's estimate because we were using the engineering services.
Gotcha.
But to my knowledge, he has not been to Whitmire yet.
but he did say that the floor was in great condition. Now, he did say that the floor, he's not asking for anything for the floor, because the floor was in great condition.
Yeah, because there are things like the storage cabinets in there. I'm fine with staying with the 8. Do you take out the storage cabinets? You've got 5,000 sign replacement, that wasn't discussed. Bleachers, I mean, those are things that can be done later if you have the building in good shape and ADA compliant. And those were the big things he wanted, the roof leaks, the fencing, the ADA compliancy. And I think he can do that with the 800,000.
I do too.
And then he can come back if any's left over and prioritize there. That's my feeling.
Well, that sounds adequate to me.
I'm in agreement. We stick with the 800. Allison? CC?
I'm good with it.
You're
Sticking
good?
with it, yeah.
Allison, you okay with
Yeah.
the 800?
Yes.
800, okay. Okay, so we'll keep that at 800. So what did I do with my list?
Mm-hmm. He never gave it.
I got water.
Added some stuff in detail. Probably right.
Go see here. We can check off,
Okay,
check off these doggone doors. We can check off a lot of stuff.
okay. So that still leaves us at a total of 37,047,130. Going back to the list from what we did last time, is there any other questions or concerns that we have with any project that we need to discuss?
You know, we got a letter about the splash pad and the deal. Is it time to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, it is.
I think that you got about you know, everybody in this county needs to see projects approved that benefit their particular area. And my thought about the splash pad, where you've got that, an additional splash pad, the restrooms, the skateboard area, and I think it was one other thing, two other things that were agreed to. The
Walking trail.
pardon?
I think it was the walking trail.
Yeah.
The Miracle
And the
Field.
Miracle Field,
Miracle Field.
Restrooms, shade.
shade structure.
And I agree, I mean, I want everything, to be perfect too. But I think everybody in this county needs to be represented by this committee. And I think that, the number with the various projects, and I'm not knocking it in the head, because I think any time that you can get kids involved in recreation, baseball, whatever, softball is a great thing. But I think that there's adequate amounts of money that maybe, that if it's the expenditures, you've got $3,185,000 that was allocated toward the expansion of the recreation area. That's 3/7 of the total amount of money.
Mr. Reed has commented. Any other comments? And I commend you, Mr. Reed, for saying that. This commission was put together for the entire county, not just for one entity, one or two entities. It's for the entire county. So as we look at these projects, we need to remember and keep that in mind, that it's for the entire county, not just for one specific project or groups of projects.
And we did cut from the other parks as well. You know what I mean? Little Mountain had 4, we cut one completely, which was their most expensive one, and then we cut another one by almost half. And then in Prosperity, we cut 2 whole park projects.
And the whole
And
water
their
well.
which was their most expensive, yeah. I stand by what we did with the rec complex.
All right. Any questions as to any changes for the NRC, Newberry Recreational Complex?
No.
I say we stay with what we went with.
Yeah.
Yep, good, good.
Yep.
We're good, we're good.
Good.
Okay, and I think, as was stated by Mr. Reed, we also received another letter. We had some questions. Some questions came up last time from another project, and we received some answers to those concerns and questions we had. So let's discuss that. Would anyone like to discuss the answers that we received? Any more questions come from these answers that we received? Concern?
We still didn't talk about the number of people that will be required for this amphitheater. I mean, I heard all about the response to where we're gonna pass it on to other employees of the city and the county. Those employees have full-time positions now. And my question is, even if you do pass it on to employees that are currently there, what kind of increase monetarily are we looking at? I think the response was, if I can find the paper, I got too many papers.
We all do.
The response, I had it printed out, I've got it somewhere in the book where I printed it out myself, but I know it's here somewhere.
Which one was it? Mike can help you with it.
It talked about the internal, here it is.
Okay.
Yeah, you talk about the
Which one is it? Is
the
it?
booking and making the contracts. And the response, generally, the city will be responsible for booking contracts, contracting an amphitheater, and the county will be responsible for booking and contracting for the pavilion. I guess, what kind of expertise has anybody in the city got on that? Or the county? I mean, you take Molly Fortune, when she came here, she had the credentials from Fox Theater in Atlanta. So that was one of my questions about it. I mean, it's, and I mean, I don't mean to continue to drag the thing out, but there's that's a huge responsibility for shows, and the whole deal is the booking and the responsibility, the price of the tickets. There's just a lot involved there, far beyond my capabilities, and that's the question I have.
Other questions, concerns from the answers that we received?
I thought the answers were better than the first time. I mean, I think we're all really interested in the project, which is, I think, why we're being a little bit nitpicky, because we all want to see it succeed. So, just so that y'all know, it doesn't come from a dislike of the project. It comes from a like of the project. But
We want it to work.
yeah, we want it to work. And I think as long as it's entered with a realizing that it's not, it's just gonna be simple. Like, there will be issues, and that needs to be respected, so.
And I think too, Allison, if we have questions, others are gonna have questions too. We've been given mounds of information, and we're asking questions. So if we're asking questions, when it goes on the ballot, it's gonna have questions too. So I think that's our biggest concern, is we're trying to answer some of the questions before and if it gets to the ballot. So it's not, to piggyback off of what you said, it's not that we want to cut the project in any way. We're excited about it. I think most of us are, but we want it to work. And that's why we're having so many questions about it. Any more discussion on this?
I got one thing I'd like to bring up, and didn't understand it based on the letter that Pope wrote, where he talks about the combined effort of the city and county. And I think it's great that anytime you can get the county and city to work together. But my understanding about a memorandum of understanding, that's just like a verbal conversation we have. There's nothing binding about it. Is that right? We talk about having a memorandum of understanding identified by these entities as solid and viable. Is the county completely on board with this project?
Yes, sir, to my knowledge, whenever they selected their project, it was placed on their group that they moved forward. So as far as the county as a whole, they were in agreement with the project and being a co-sponsor of the project with the city.
Karen, I didn't hear you. What did you say again?
When the county council made their vote of their projects that they were gonna send forward to the commission, they agreed to put the amphitheater as one of those 7 that they moved forward. So they did their scoring individually of all the projects that they were presented, and the amphitheater was one that they all agreed to move forward to the commission.
Well, that's good. That simplifies it then, if they are in total agreement with this too.
The council was presented the MOU as well as the one that you saw, and they all agreed to it before Mr. Inglesey signed that.
Got a comment back here.
Can we take questions, comments? We can? Okay, I thought it was just deliberation among us.
That is up to you. It's up to you. I want you to start.
One. 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Mr. Reed talked about my letter, so I just thought I would get up and say that we've had numerous meetings between the city and the county, and this is historic.
Okay.
So they want it to work. An MOU is morally binding. The county doesn't own the property yet. If this referendum is adopted, they will buy it. They got an option to buy it. They will buy it for the price set forth in it, $190,000. The city owns the amphitheater site per se, and the county will own where the pavilion is by it. And I've never seen two entities more committed to something. And I've talked to the city manager of Travelers Rest, where they have an amphitheater, and also the Britt Pool in Lexington, and they don't have any problem scheduling. They're not doing sophisticated schedule. If a church wants to rent the amphitheater for a service, for a gospel singing or whatever, for a certain day, $400 is their rental rate. There's no real complexity to that. If we have big shows down there, the Opera House will run the ticketing, the booking, the performance, everything. So that's where, if that's sophisticated, then your Molly Fortune type expertise would come in on that. But I don't want anybody to think this is just some slapdash idea that was thrown together. This has been through a lot of thought and a lot of heartbreak and interest. This is for the future of Newberry. And if you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I don't want to take up y'all's time. This is a serious project, and it's a fun project. How about putting some fun in people's lives? Anything wrong with that? Young kids, all our kids move away. Both my children don't live here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do something to keep them here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Poe. All right. Any more discussion of the amphitheater?
My concern were the area we're building the amphitheater. Love it, want it. I was in Lexington yesterday at theirs. My wife and I walked and sat out there, looked at how beautiful it was, and I was telling Newberry possibly going to get one of these. But we're in an area down there, it's a very severe flood area. And we just spent a lot of money on that. And I know numbers can tell when we're going to have that 100-year flood. But I'm thinking about Purcell's, the city, the taxpayers on Purcell Street. I'm thinking about even your law firms is in that flood zone. Even across the street from you, Bethlehem Church is in that flood zone. So when we operate this here property, and I know that the letter said the engineer is going to do certain things. We did the widening, but I grew up not too far off Scotts Creek down on the west end side on Crossing Street, and I've seen rain. I've seen Scott Creek get way out of hand, and I was just concerned about that. You know, when we do have that, how that we're going to protect Purcell Street, Bethlehem, Lindsay Furniture, right downtown. Then we come on down on Boyd Street. There are 3 houses right there on Boyd Street. I've seen Scott Creek, Butch Price is my neighbor. We've seen Scott Creek just get over the Drayton Street Bridge. I've seen Scott Creek even flood to the point where you couldn't even know you had a bridge down to Scott Creek. And I've seen Scott Creek almost take half of Willowbrooks Park. I'm just concerned about that part of it. You know, what can we do? What guarantee, what the engineer going to do so special trying to control when we do have that big flood? Because it's going to affect somebody. Mm-hmm. And the first people it's going to affect right here is going to be law firm, John Lindsay, Bethlehem Church, and Purcell Street. We go on down, they're going to affect those 3 houses on Boyd Street. They're also going to affect Willowbrooks Park. So that was just my concern. Was there any way else? Did we look at that good enough? Because this is taxpayers. Mm-hmm. You know, this is taxpayer. Do I want one? Sure, I want one. Do I want to go to the amphitheater and hear jazz concert? Sure, I do. Okay. Do I want to hear old rhythms and blues? And yes, I do. Okay. Do I want to invite my twin brother and some of my family? Come on, we got something going on in Newberry. You're gonna love it. Sure, I do. Okay. But I just want to make sure the location. Are we putting this in the right location? That it's not going to cause any more flood problems. That's my concern.
Okay, Mr. Works has brought up a concern. Anyone else have any other concerns? I think that was some of the questions that we sent in, and they were answered to a certain extent. And of course, none of us can predict what's going to happen, but again, they're concerns.
I mean, I guess at least an amphitheater's mostly grass. It's not like a big building. I mean, I know there's gonna be a stage down closer, but. I mean, I think that's a greater issue outside the amphitheater. Obviously, that maybe needs to be further addressed in, by Newberry, but for everybody.
Yeah, I was just looking down the road.
Yeah,
For the,
I agree.
yeah.
I mean, every time it rains, like, it's crazy. We go down with my kids just to see it.
Like you said, we want it, definitely want it. I just want to make,
That's what I want to say, in response to Mr. Pope about, people leaving and stuff like that. I don't think there's anyone on this commission from day one that has said they did not want an amphitheater here in the city of Newberry for the citizens here, and that has not been the problem. We just had some concerns and wanted to get some answers. I've read over, and I think my questions have been taken care of in this last round. It's not completely 100%, but I don't want anybody to think that this commission or anybody on this commission never wanted the amphitheater, because we wanted it. We think it's a great idea for this city, for this county, and I do believe that it's going to be a tremendous asset to this county and to the city. I just want people to know that we have been 100% on this from day one. Never wavered from it.
And again, as you've stated, if we have questions, others are going to have questions. So if we can get the questions answered and then they can be presented better. All right, any other discussion on the amphitheater?
The county and the city are totally on the same page.
Looks that
Pretty
way.
much the way it goes. That's the biggest concern I have.
Looks that way.
Whether the county and the city that, rather than, just a conversation, they were totally engaged with this.
Okay. All right. The other projects, any question on them? I think, those were handled singly. Let me just go back through our list so that we'll all kind of be on the same page.
I have
Yeah,
a question.
sorry.
Are we, since we're in the 37 million range, are we like done cutting or
That's-
not?
I think
Let's go through each project and see if there's anything else.
Okay.
And then right now we are, we've got the 3747. But let's look at the projects. All right, starting at the top, I'm on the spreadsheet. This spreadsheet, okay? All right. The one we got, I know, we've got so many papers. It's the last one that
the
Karen gave to us.
latest, the latest.
Which one you got?
Yeah, that one, okay. All
there you
right.
go, I got one for you.
Yeah. Need to have a number on them. I think I've got 7 of them.
All right.
Need a revision on the revision date.
At the top, we've got County Courthouse IT Network. Questions, concerns?
No.
Okay, let's move on. And these are in no particular order. Public Safety Complex, Friendly Fire Relocation. Questions, concerns?
I took a further look at like the itemized. And it looks like some people are here. They might be able to answer. So the biggest chunk of the money correlates with, there's like 7,000 square feet open bay, and then 6,000 square feet emergency operations services and training center. That one's more than the open bay. I was wondering if you could just tell me,
That's
Why?
interior, that's rooms, offices, the open bay is just basically like shop style, open construction, nothing framed, minimum wiring. I mean, the parts you're asking about would be like this room, with the training ground, the rooms, technology, stuff like that.
So the training center itself, how much, can you elaborate on the training center? How big or how much of this 2.1 million are we anticipating? Because that's 27% of your total ask, that 2.1 million, so I just,
What page are you?
and is this the correct thing?
It's under tab 6.
Tab 6, okay.
And that should be 77.
There was two, actually,
all right, so, you have it clumped in as Emergency Operations Center and Services and Training Center.
Yes, sir.
I was asking, I understand the emergency operations services, the need and the priority for that, but the training center is what I was concerned about, like, $2.1 million, it seems like a big number.
which one, was the right one?
This should be, no, yes, that's the, yeah, because the parking lot's gone, so that's the correct one.
Okay.
Do you got that wrong?
So,
No, so, I mean, a lot of what goes into the training center, it's gonna be a three-purpose, basically, room. It's gonna serve as a training center for all of fire, rescue, EMS, law enforcement, whoever would like or need to use it. You've got the, I don't think you can see it there, but we've got the new burn building on the backside of the property. The rest of that site is gonna be built out for LP gas, auto extrication, high-angle rescue. And so we'll be able to host fire academy classes there on site. Larger fire academy classes. Right now, I think it's probably down to maybe 15, 20 students. We can offer bigger classes, more people can come in. I think, and sorry, Tommy's not here, but part of Tommy's vision, Tommy Long's vision is that can also be a backup EOC. And so you've got an EOC, Emergency Operations Center.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Emergency Operations Center that is over near the sheriff's office and where dispatch is. But, you know, you get into larger, complex, multi-day events that can over exceed the size of that room. And so this building will have some overflow for that. It will have bunk beds so that as we're running multi-day shifts, they'll have places that they can sleep without having to pay for hotel rooms and that type of things. And so it's gonna be a multi-purpose building as well as office space, day room, kitchen so that we can feed. So if we're doing a multi-event, I've unfortunately had the opportunity to work at month events around the state. And that is typically the way these things have worked. You don't necessarily get fed at the local restaurants. You have a group that comes in and they feed out of the Emergency Operations Center or out of that law enforcement agency.
Chris, can you tell us what the EOC,
Yes,
I'll get it
ma'am.
right.
It's an
What
emergency
does it,
operations
and what does it do? Explain to
So-
us what goes on there, because I think that's where some of the question is
Yes,
coming
ma'am.
in.
So what that allows is, you know, when you have an event like a 1,000-year flood or something like that, you're gonna have public works, you're gonna have fire, you're gonna have rescue, you're gonna have EMS, you're gonna have county administration, you're gonna have purchasing, finance, school board, health department.
So all these people are in a
All these
big
people
room
come in
talking
one
about
room
strategy.
with one representative, and you've got one central point. Hey, I need this. Okay, they can turn to SCDOC. DOT, they got them right there in their grasp. They can get those resources. We need money to be able to feed everybody. We would have somebody from purchasing from the county or the city there that can, you know, approve purchases. You don't have to go looking for them. They're there. The fire board has a representative there. The rescue board has a representative there. So that if we need, hey, we need so many ambulances, then we take care of staffing so many ambulances, or we need so many engine companies. The fire board takes care of getting, and so it's just an open area to collaborate. But when you start looking at these things, they go on 24-hour rotations. Sometimes they go weeks into these events. You're gonna need somewhere for people to rest, to recoup and that type of thing, kitchens to feed, and that's what this building will allow us to do, we don't have right now. In addition to planning for the future for paid firefighters, rescue personnel, that type of thing.
And that's a question with that too. Where do these people go now?
We don't.
Okay.
You've got the training facility that's at the sheriff's office that's been used some, but there's not a full kitchen there. There's tables and chairs, but there's not a full kitchen where you can cook. You've got the EOC, but even when we've done some of the, and I've been there for some of the weather-related incidents that were coming, that room's full. And that's just,
It's no
small
nighttime,
events.
nothing for nighttime.
Right. So, we're not talking about the outside resources that if we have to do firefighter mobilization call in, we haven't gotten to that point yet. And so if we ever get to that point, it's gonna be bad, it's gonna be hurting.
Remind me too, because, we have in here, like, I'm sure we talked about it the night of, but the 2 drawings and the 2 quotes that are different, and it was.
Yes, ma'am. So when we initially looked at it, we had a parking lot to the side where where our folks could park. And it came in at a much higher cost, at like $9.5 million. So we sat down and went ahead and started cutting, and that's how we got to the 7.75. Now, there was a price that came up of 6.1. That was never supposed to come across. Council voted on sending the project as designed when we cut it to the 7.75. So the 6 point whatever was never a consideration.
Because I guess, and there's the picture, the corresponding picture, it's like the double bay versus the 1 bay or whatever.
Yes, ma'am, that 1 bay was never a consideration for the project.
Gotcha.
And that's where we talked about the remodel versus new construction, the 1.2 difference. Now, new construction, it probably costs 3 times that to re-tie-in plumbing, electrical, roof lines, is the ceiling's gonna match, the exterior color, half of it's gonna be faded. I mean,
And as we indicated.
we didn't meet on that option.
How many people do you train during the year?
Every other Wednesday, they have training class out there.
How many people?
What's that? They had 15 there. I think he told me last Wednesday. They do it once a month. We had hazmat tech refresher, in March, where people standing against the wall in the room you got now out there, so.
My department trains every month, and it's right at 15 people.
You have, every fire department has to do a refresher burn. We've done ours, back in February. Whitmire's using it June 4th, so I mean, it's people
You
out
train both the county and the city, right?
Well, everybody can use it. There's some joint training, but each department lines up. There's a calendar and you can sign up.
But
to
this
use it.
facility that we have approved, it will be to train both the county and the city, is that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that training room will be open, county, city.
Rescue, EMS.
That had me confused.
law
And we would open
enforcement.
that training room up to host classes where members from around the state can come and train here.
Sure.
So we can host
Does that-
classes that are open.
Does that bring any money to y'all, or that would be free?
So there will be some classes that we've looked at least on the rescue side, as far as bringing in some of these school bus extrication expertise and that type of thing, that we could, I don't know that it would bring in revenue as much as we could host the class and then offer slots to other agencies. And as they pay for classes, it allows more of our people to go for free. So in turn, yes, it does bring in money. But that is something that we've looked at, is bringing in, your heavy vehicles, as much interstate as we cover. We cover probably 75% of the interstate, at least my one department. There's other departments in the county that will use the same training facility, but that is one of our biggest response districts, is for Rex, is the interstate, with all the school buses, tour buses, 18-wheelers, that type of thing. So, being able to train on these heavy vehicles will be a benefit. That's something, again, that we can bring in from across the state.
Anything else? Okay. Do you know, I know Tommy's not here, but do you know how old the current EOC building is?
It was done in 2010? Wasn't that the last?
2010?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've outgrown it?
Yes, ma'am. And again, that was one of those things. It was pretty much, I've been in this since 1996. And when we went in, I've been chairman of the board for the last many years. And I've been at those meetings, and that room is full when it's stood up and actually in operation. And I said, we've been fortunate that these have all been small, in the grand scheme of things, they've been small scale events. But our turn will come, and I hope we will be prepared.
I hope so too.
Yep.
We are.
So basically, y'all saying it's time to bring you guys up to the modern day.
Yes, sir. I've unfortunately had the chances to work the Aiken train derailment, the 1,000-year flood in Myrtle Beach,
Graniteville.
the hurricane duties down there.
That was Graniteville.
Graniteville, yes, sir, in Aiken. Well, Graniteville inside of Aiken County. And like I said, it can hit a small town like Graniteville. There's nothing to say that it doesn't come home to Newberry. So, yeah, we've been to Columbia. We've been all over, so we want to be prepared.
We're on the map too, it just hadn't hit us.
Don't say that.
Well, it can happen anywhere.
I know.
You can.
It can. Any other questions, concerns?
Well, again, I'm not talking about the ELC part of, like, I'm okay with that. Like, I understand that that's a necessary, component of it. But again, I appreciate all you guys do, you volunteering your time, to be firefighters. But the question still for me remains, you said we can train people from outside of, not just Newberry. And there's, a lot of it will be free. And so my question is, are we gonna build a complex big enough to spend Newberry money to train other cities' officers? And again, that may not be a popular viewpoint, but, and again, whatever we decide here, I'll go with. But it's just a concern for me, saying that we're gonna spend Newberry County money to train firefighters in Greenwood or Aiken or wherever.
No, and that's not the sole purpose of it. I think, the primary benefit is that we have the room for a spillover EOC, that we've got places these people can go and eat. But if we do have these massive, events, whether they're man-made or natural, you're gonna have hundreds of the responders that are gonna come here to help us. And they've gotta have somewhere to go and be fed and that type of thing. And that's something that EOC will be able to do, is not only have meetings, but you've also got somewhere that you can feed folks and you can cook for them with a kitchen. The side of that is, when we don't have those events, now we've got the opportunity to host trainings. And when you can bring in enough people that you do train other counties, that's saving us money by saving tuition, so that our people benefit from the training. We save money by not having to pay for our own tuition, but we're allowing other agencies to come here and train with us as well.
And again, who will be using this facility? It's gonna be free.
City, county, any public safety. I mean, you could actually typically have highway patrol host training.
No, I meant like
anybody
friendly,
in public safety.
but Friendly will definitely move from Harrington.
Friendly would move into that station, and Newberry Rescue would move into that station. And then that opens up the station that we're in for hazmat to move into our station, who does not have a home, who's got trucks spread out between Prosperity, Stony Hill, and wherever else that they've got equipment. We just had the chemical explosion at McLean Fiberglass just last week. We had to wait on the truck to come from Stony Hill to come up to McLean Fiberglass before they could really, luckily nobody was injured that I remember us transporting. But that could have been bad, and that was them having to go get their gear from, the lower end of the county versus being centrally located.
Any other questions? Thank y'all. Okay, so public safety, 775.
Let's go on. Let's move on.
Okay, all right. third on this list, museum, roof replacement, HVAC. Questions, concerns?
No.
No? All right. All right, then we will skip down to renovation of Old Gallman.
Amphitheater.
We've already talked about it.
Okay.
We already,
Okay.
renovation of Gallman High, Gallman Place, Phase 1. And again, remember, this is just Phase 1.
Good to go.
Questions, concerns? Okay. Then we're down to next is detention center improvements.
Much needed.
Much needed, yeah. Because if not, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be paying one way.
All right, and then we've got NRC as a chunk, we've already discussed. Let's move down to Little Mountain Reunion Park Walking Trail, large shelter.
We're gonna chunk all that together under Little Mountain.
I think
Improvements?
so.
That is what
That's what it'd be.
is recommended.
That's what I'd like
All
to
of that
see.
together, and for instance, if one of the phases of that goes under what the estimate is, and the next one goes over, like, if you had to swap 50,000, whatever, you're still in one project. You don't have to move, you know, you're not bound by that dollar number for that project.
So how will that be listed? Will it be listed separately, though, on the ballot? Will people know that they're not just saying Little Mountain with this big chunk? Would it say what's separated?
Theo had given an idea of that, and he can address how we're working back and forth with some of that.
As Karen said, we're working on it. The shortest way would be able to say Little Mountain Reunion Park improvements. You could also say to include shelter renovations, park entrance improvements, and picnic shelter bathroom improvements.
Okay.
What Karen remarks were you don't want to do a line item on each of those because
Right.
once it's on
Right.
that ballot, you can't change it.
Right.
So, Madam Chair, I'll just say, if y'all would prefer to name the those particular projects collectively that you want in, that's what we'll bring back to you next week.
Yes.
Does
Yes,
that
yes,
seem to be the
yes.
consensus here? Okay.
I think that would be better than lots. Y'all good with that, Allison? Cece? Okay. Thank you, Mr. DeBose. Okay. So that leaves us coming down to Old Pomeria School Building. Questions, concerns?
No.
Okay. Next. Again, Prosperity.
And that will be together as well.
That will be together as well, uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay? Next to the bottom, upgrade to Whitmire, and again, that's the 800,000.
We've
And-
discussed it.
And last on the list is Cannons Creek, okay?
Good to go.
Any questions, concerns? All right, I think we've got our projects. Now, now comes the easy part.
So that was,
Order.
that's 12 total projects.
That's
then.
12 total, 12 total.
I missed it, Rob.
Did you, what did you, how many you've got?
I got it. Well,
He's got 11.
I guess I missed something.
You've got
somewhere.
something missing.
Leave it there.
I didn't number mine either.
I've got 12.
Okay.
3, let me. 4, 5, 6, 7,
6, 7,
8. Did you,
8, 9, 10, 11.
Pomeria, that may be included with Prosperity. That may be where you're missing one. Because I've got 12.
Yep, it's 12.
It's 12.
11?
12.
12.
Okay.
See, Pomeria is separate.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
That-
12.
Got it, it's number 11.
Should be 12.
Yeah, it's 12 right here.
Know what you got?
Yeah.
I know what I mean.
It's got it.
Okay, he's gonna renumber.
12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
For simplicity, sake, would you like for me to
8,
consolidated,
9,
one line for the city, one
and
line.
call this gonna be 10, 11, 12, 12, 12, it's
I
12.
don't think so.
No,
I don't think
no.
so. I just think he just skipped something.
Okay.
10, 11. Learn how to count.
He's got it. Okay, now it's our priority. Okay, everybody got 12 now, huh? Top to bottom or bottom to top?
Are we deciding on this first? Or,
I say we get our projects first, and then we'll figure out whether or not how we're gonna, yeah. All right, let's go top down.
Top priority down.
Top priority down.
Fire department and the detention center should take 1 and 2.
I think
I got detention center at 1.
Detention center is my 1.
Okay?
I worry about that, because again, we're putting it on the ballot for the community to vote on. They're gonna have to vote on this. And we just said that technically, the order doesn't matter if we're able to start all the projects at the same time, once we get the money. I just worry people see a detention center and like, we're spending all this money to build a hotel for convicts, like, I'm just being honest.
You are,
So-
you are.
And so, if we put it at number 1, how many people is that gonna turn away with the voting of it?
I
Because
don't
we
know,
all
did you
want
read
it.
the paper this week where Foster talked about the detention center? I mean, he's already publicized.
Well, I agree that it's needed, but if we can start the projects all at the same time, then it doesn't matter whether it's listed as 1 or if it's listed as 12. If they're all gonna start building it at the same time, see what I'm saying? So I just feel like because right now we're trying to predict what how the public's gonna perceive these projects.
What's your
And that's-
suggestion? What do you want to do?
I would say we go with the projects that will benefit the most people and put them at the top.
What is that?
The parks, all the parks, because the people are gonna use the parks. And so they're more likely, because of their children and whatnot, to say yes, because it benefits them more than the detention center would.
Well, if you said that, go with the projects that's gonna benefit the public, if we don't go with the detention center, then I would go with the amphitheater. That's number 1.
I'm okay with that too, but we're trying to get people, we want people to vote for this and vote yes. And so to get a yes vote, again, we're trying to predict, the population, and that's gonna be tough. And this is me talking, and again, I could be totally wrong. But I feel like if we want to get their attention, it has to be something that benefits the greater.
You know what the biggest priority is in the United States right now? Law and order. That's the biggest priority.
I get that, but how many people are worried about law and order? Because again, most of these people are law-abiding citizens. They're not worried about the detention center. I mean,
I wanted to, because y'all have done this a couple times. So, I mean, what were kind of your thoughts in the past, or what did you, I don't know,
We
from
had those projects
experience.
before that were very clear, clear cut that benefited everybody.
Hospital.
Right.
Madam Chairman, what's your
House.
priority? What's your number 1 priority?
She said the jail.
I said the jail, but I'm listening. I've got as my top 3, detention, amphitheater, and the friendly, and then next, recreation.
I agree with all of that. Let's move on. Let's go.
Let's move on. Okay, we gotta put them in some order. Okay, wait a minute, let's see.
So,
how likely is it that we'll be able to start all these projects at the same time?
That was my question. Yeah.
Public safety, yeah.
I think it's absent something catastrophic, it's likely you'll be able to do almost all of them at the same time. I'd be surprised if you didn't get, what are we at, 12 now?
12.
12.
Get 10, although that really depends on the dollar value of it, right? But there is a chance, and I wouldn't put a big extensive project, frankly, at the bottom,
Right.
just because of the inflation that I've talked about. I think there's a pretty good chance to get 10 out of 12, as long as interest rates don't.
Okay. All right, so we've got 4. We've
Can
got
you name the ones you said again?
detention, amphitheater, NCR, that's the recreation, Newberry Complex, Newberry
Recreation complex.
Recreation Complex. I said it backwards.
5, Newberry Recreation Complex.
And then public safety. So we've got those 4.
Wait,
What's going to be
Now,
one?
which one is that?
Number 2. right
Public
here.
safety,
Okay.
that's the fire department, friendly fire.
Okay.
so you're saying order those?
Order
4.
those 4. Let's discuss those 4. As I've said, I had detention 1, but listening with Cece, I'm not going to put that as my number 1 now,
Maybe
just
like,
because of what you said. But it's in my top 4.
yeah.
So, okay, that's my thought. Anybody else want to take detention center from number 1? And say we move it down? We want it in the top 4, but move it down.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Do that.
Okay, we can do that. So let's make it 4.
What is 4?
Detention center.
Okay.
Can we get a? Can we get a running total? Okay.
Yeah, 'cause you know I can't count.
Okay, so detention is 4. All right. So from those 3, what's going to be number 1? We're still looking at number 1.
I'm with Roy, I like the amphitheater as
Amphitheater,
one.
yeah.
I like the amphitheater as one.
I don't think amphitheater needs to be number 1. I think you need to have something like the Splash Park or,
I would go with Splash Park, because I do feel that there are some people that don't agree with it.
Ascension.
The amphitheater, what's getting the amphitheater, and again, we've got to get the voters on this,
They've got-
is the location. I think that's going to be the big concern, is the location of that amphitheater. Because everybody in Newberry County knows about Scotts Creek.
I think the amphitheater needs to be middle of the road. And, you gotta be looking at things that, are gonna benefit everybody. The fire department, definitely is a big deal to me. The response times, just like Samsung. Their point about, the question I asked, you agree with, what the lawyer for Samsung, that's your fire department? And those people are having impact on this community. So I would think that the fire and safety should be somewhere either 2 or 3.
But not number 1.
Pardon?
But not number 1? Public safety?
Yeah, I think that's probably where it needs to be, number 1.
I feel like this day and age, people are obsessed with being safe.
Number 1?
Yeah.
I can agree with number 1. Because I think that, again, that's our future.
Absolutely.
So you also take the whole county, everybody, yeah,
And, we're saying friendly, but, if I'm out on the interstate, they're going to be the ones that come. If we have a natural disaster, I want those people in one room. I don't want them all over the place trying to get in contact with each other if there's some disaster here.
We want adequate, where they can work and get things done.
So they can,
Yeah.
save me.
Get to us. 1.
I think we're at number 1, public safety.
Okay, that's a good one.
Cornelius,
I'm not sold, but I can live with it. Like,
one with a question mark.
As long as your
Yeah.
part's number 2.
One with a question mark. Public safety, okay. Okay,
the recreation complex.
number 2,
Recreation
Recreation
complex.
complex.
That serves
NCR.
everybody.
NCR, okay,
What did you say?
Recreation
Recreation.
complex number 2.
I agree with that.
okay. Number 3,
Detention centers, I think
Number
need to be
4.
there.
Number 4.
we had that at 4.
Well, what we gonna put at 3?
I don't know what we're gonna do at 3.
You gonna put another park? You wanna go
Number
across the
4.
Oh, yeah.
That's right there.
to get those people, because we don't have.
I think we're gonna need to pull the people outside the city and county, because city and county
How
are
do y'all
getting a
look?
lot.
What's three?
I think we need to
Prosperity
go to
number
like
three.
Prosperity
Prosperity.
and Little Mountain and Plumeria. Whitmire, fill those.
I say
What do y'all say about prosperity for number 3?
I say prosperity. Because that way,
Absolutely.
I
We
think
get- we
that's a
get that.
big active area in the
Yes.
county, and it needs to be there, number 3.
Prosperity, that's a good suggestion.
Okay.
okay, so we've got 4. Public safety is 1, NCR is 2, prosperity group is 3, and 4 is detention.
Yep.
And then
5, y'all looking at amphitheater for
I
5?
say amphitheater for 5.
How about the little mountain,
I like to do
park and
amphitheater.
walking through the thing, how about that being number 5?
Prosperity.
You know, the mayor was pretty insistent about that, and there are a lot of people involved with that, I think.
And she was very giving.
And she was willing to cut.
I'm willing to cut where some have not
Not,
been willing
right.
to cut,
Right, she was.
which,
She was impressive, I thought she did a good job.
I think so too. Little Mountain, it's 5.
5.
How about the,
Gallman,
Amphitheater.
Yeah, now put the amphitheater.
now put the
6.
amphitheater. Amphitheater 6,
sure,
Gallman at 7.
Gallman 7,
how about the museum? If we put that at 7, it's a low-cost item. I don't even.
wait a minute,
I guess I need to
let's
read
see.
that.
We've still got to think about the Cannon Creek.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
Because that's a big one.
that's a big one, but it's gonna be needed.
And I would even put that before amphitheater. I would put Cannons Creek at 6.
'Cause that's a booming area.
I dated mine this time, where I know which one I'm looking at.
Okay. Okay, we've got Cannons Creek. That's a big ticket item. We don't want to save that to near the bottom.
About a third from the bottom.
I say leave it there and put Cannon Creek number 7.
Yeah.
Cannons Creek, number 7.
All right,
And then
Gallman.
Gallman at number 8.
Gallman at number 8.
Let's please get the courthouse fixed.
Oh, God,
Yeah, I
yes.
forgot about that. Yeah, number 9 courthouse.
Is,
I forgot about that.
That could have been number 1, because that would be done.
Number 9 courthouse.
Courthouse,
Y'all like that? Number 9, the courthouse?
yeah, that needs to be fixed. That's
the closet.
295,000.
Yeah, yeah, that can be done quickly. And then the museum at 10?
That's fine.
that need to be fixed.
Museum at 10?
Sure.
Yep. Plumeria 11.
We're gonna leave Whitmire to last? So, oh, gosh.
Which one is
If there's
11?
money left over.
Plumeria.
Mary.
Plumeria. And if it's more, he might get his
You might
9,
get a little
12.
extra.
Yeah,
All right, call them out.
all right. Okay, what we got? Okay, number 1, public safety. Number 2, NCR, recreation. Number 3, prosperity. 4, detention. 5, Little Mountain. 6, amphitheater. 7, Cannons Creek. 8, Gallman. 9, courthouse. 10, museum. 11, Plumeria. And number 12 is Whitmire.
Well, the statement Cornelius made holds more water than anything.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think so.
Same
Thank you.
time.
Good idea.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Because we've got to
It's
get
how
it
we
voted
took it
on.
off last time.
Yeah,
Afraid.
Because we want all the projects, you know.
yes.
If
And I
they say
think
no,
this is,
none of the projects get funded. So
Can we go ahead and vote on bonded versus pay-as-you-go? I mean, I'm pretty,
so, Mr. DeBose, we've got our 12. And it didn't take long. We've got our 12. Now, our next priority is whether or not we talk about bonding versus.
Well, what we will do now,
Okay,
everybody hungry? We will work to develop the form of the ballot and with staff, send it out for y'all to review before next Monday night. And it'll have the question including issuing bonds at the bottom. The statute says you do the ballot question, and it must be modified to include bonds.
okay, okay, so we'll do that next week.
Okay, so we will get this, like I said, not with line items, but I'm hearing for Little Mountain, you want each one of those features that you did want to fund. And I assume likewise with Prosperity in town of Newberry, so City of Newberry, recreation function.
Yes, sir.
We'll send it out, and so, I think it can be interactive. Any comments any of y'all have, send them back, to Karen during the week. And you ought to be ready for a fairly quick meeting next Monday.
Okay,
Really?
Fingers crossed.
We'll see.
And for those of you who hadn't been here before, this lady can run a meeting and get it done. So, applause. Thank you.
thank you, thank you. Okay, all right, commissioners, thank you. Thank you for what you've done. I think we have a good ballot. I think the county is going to be pleased with what we've come up with, and I think the voters will have a good sense of everything that's on here and how important it is that it's voted for. So I think we've done a great job, and I want to thank each of you for your hard work and for your questions. And again, that's how you get answers. You have to ask the tough questions to get the answers. Okay, and another piece of paper. Where's my agenda? You got yours?
I think you need a motion for
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
lost one.
I've lost mine. Agenda.
Just some questions, comments, and then.
Question, comments? Okay. Thank you.
Yes, there.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from any of the commission members?
No.
Again, thank y'all for serving. Got one more night.
I make a motion, we
They
adjourn.
serving dinner?
Second.
There we go. This meeting is adjourned.
It depends on the rider.
She made the motion and he seconded. Okay.